Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review of the Duralast square handle 92 70037 half-inch drive ratchet. I titled this The Decline of Duralast Ratchets, although they're just releasing some 100 2/3, so we'll see how those work out. But I say the decline because Duralast Autozone had some okay ratchets, and then they came out with this first generation 36 tooth ratchet, which was actually really nice, based on a professional brand. You know, the screws are properly through screwed, the hole in the bottom plate. Then they moved up to the 72 tooth ones. They weren't quite as nice, not the same manufacturer, not the same grade of finish. A similar ratchet mechanism. However, it seems there's a few videos on YouTube, I think even a viewer of my channel did one where it shows the 1/4 inch ones tend to skip teeth rather than the anvil breaking. Or on the 36 tooths, regardless of what drive size, it was always the anvil that would fail. They really were a nice ratchet. Even their little round heads were really nice. But this thing is really cheap. This has a finger type pawl design similar to the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh Professionals, and really is just poorly built. It's bottom screwed. I think it's made by the same company that makes the 72 tooth. Bottom screwing is always cheaper for manufacturing, except for its lower quality. If you ever have an issue with the screw holes stripping out, there's nothing you can really do about it. Cross-screwed ones, when you get a rebuild kit, the screws thread into the plate that you're replacing, so it's a design for longevity. This square handle, some people like it, and for me, I don't like this handle at all. This is it's a very heavy ratchet. There's a lot of steel in this. It seems unnecessary. And even though during a regular grip, you can actually get a pretty good purchase on it, many times you're not working with a ratchet in just a flat overhead position. They even have like a little bump for your thumb. Many times you're working on sideways, or you have to be this direction, and I find the kind of squared off hard edges will occasionally bite on you. I did not buy this new, although they're around 30 bucks on the shelf. It seems that AutoZone has actually discontinued it because they didn't sell very well. They were pretty expensive, but inevitably with all the stores, I'm sure there's plenty of these still sitting out there. And really, I wouldn't pick one up, especially this back end, these sharp corners. If you're ever trying to get a little extra leverage, it really bites in quite badly. And the ratchet mechanism is weak. It isn't a solid pawl design. I'm sure the ratchet mechanism will strip out well before the anvil shears off. The anvil also has quite a bit of play, quite a bit more play when you consider that the old ones here, the 36 tooths, had pretty much the tightest anvils that you could get and still have a ratchet be able to reasonably turn. And I've done a big Duralast ratchet review in comparison, but they use one big solid ratcheting block, so when you operate it, you can see that it's just connected to this. Rubber seals, nothing like that in these ratchets. Let me bust this open. Even the ball detent is pretty soft on this ratchet. It's quite a disappointment. 3 little screws to pull this thing apart, little T9s. They're actually smaller than the T15s that are holding this thing together. Let me get these out of here. This particular design, like the Harbor Freight uses, is really annoying because they have a third screw. You always know the evidence of these because they have that weird third screw. That's the switch retention screw. The problem is that it's not one that can really be tightened, so they put Loctite in it, and you tighten it down until it just has a little bit of tension. Otherwise, and see, it really is the retention. If that screw comes out, you lose your reverse lever, which is something that's not effectively possible with even these other Duralast ratchets. And you can see by the nature of the way this reverse lever is held that if that screw is tightened down until it's cinched, you wouldn't be able to switch it. It really is a cheap design. Let's go ahead and just... There goes a little spring. There's no kind of rubber seals like the old version had. Super fine, super thin teeth. That's the one reason I'm not a fan of fine tooth ratchets, is you really need to have very large ratchet pawls, such as, you know, any number of brands like Gear Wrench, Proto, those kind of brands. Even the Titans, they use really wide ratchet paws. The problem with this design is it's just these small little fingers with just a few little teeth, and that just doesn't provide enough surface area. There's not enough steel. If this were a very coarse ratchet, then there might be enough steel in there, but with this type of design, you just have that little contact of whatever that is there, 6 little teeth, very fine, very shallow. There's no way that that's going to hold the hundreds of foot-pounds of torque that it takes to shear or break off a half-inch drive anvil. And many times you use a half-inch drive ratchet as a breaker bar. That's what a lot of people have. So stay away from this thing, and I really do think it's the decline of Duralast. You go from a ratchet that was really professionally competitive, well built, and everything that you would expect with all the design features and construction quality, and even their early round heads were pretty nice, even though they couldn't be rebuilt, to cheaper but okay for the price 72 tooth ones, to now ratchets that really are going to end up falling apart on you and having the ratchet mechanism fail when you really need it to come through for you on a tough situation. And in my opinion, a really uncomfortable square handle to boot. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.